What's up, everybody? I am your host, a rough and gruff know-it-all that believes running's not a plan, it's what you do when a plan fails. And that is my co-host, a young Kevin Bacon that likes his women with big green eyes, ass that won't quit, and legs that go all the way up. And welcome to the Grindhouse Syndicate, where today we talk about one of my all-time favorite monster movies and a true classic. Ron Underwood's Tremors from 1990. I was so excited I got to finally watch my Arrow video copy, which looks great on 4K, especially the scenic shots. Definitely recommend picking that up if you're a big fan of this movie.
Good God, man. The restoration they did on that was incredible. I mean, it looks like the movie was shot now.
Yeah, when I was doing my research for this, I came across some scenes from the movie, but they were very obviously from like VHS or from like cable. And I watched this movie 3 times this week on the 4K, and when I went back and seen that, I was like, man, it looks even better after seeing what the movie used to look like. You can actually go and watch like old commercials for the VHS when it came out. And oh man, it looks rough.
Yeah, I know Arrow did, before 4K, they did their 4K restoration that they released on Blu-ray, but they overseen it, but it's from the original camera negative. And I guess that makes a huge difference, because there's like detail stuff and some practical effects that in the original version of it, you can't even see. Like,
Yeah.
you can't even see it. So it's just amazing to me how they can take that camera negative and go back and
Like rescan it and
make it like a new movie completely. I mean, this movie looked beautiful. Not a bit of film grain, anything in it.
No, it's definitely a great copy. Like I said, pick it up. It's worth it. But before we dive into Tremors, we just want to say thanks for all of you who entered into the contest and showed some love to C. Ernst Haar's social media pages. He's a wonderful guy. Definitely follow him. He is a great dude. He'll chat with you. We now officially have 2 winners, so congratulations to them. They got some autographs, some stickers. Somebody got a movie with it's not a movie, it's like 10 movies. But yeah, congratulations. So, with that being said, are you ready to blow this mother humper and head to Bixby?
I am ready.
All right, let's do it.
That was a very Tremor way to say that.
Yes.
Hello, boys and ghouls. If you want to stay up to date on what's going on with the show, talk about or submit your movie requests, or just say die, then I got good news for you. You can always find us at one of our social media accounts or our official website at Grindhouse.Horror.Pod.com, Facecrook at the Grindhouse Syndicate Horror Podcast, Instascam at GrindhouseSyndicate.Horror.Pod, and many gore, which you can always find links for in the show notes as always. And you know what I always say, the morgue, the merrier. So please subscribe or follow for alerts on new episodes. Now, back to the show, kiddies. Frights, camera, action.
And if you really love us and don't want us to be swallowed up by giant prehistoric worms, then give us a review. Tremors is a 1990 American monster horror film directed by Ron Underwood, produced by Brent Maddock and S.S. Wilson, and it stars Kevin Bacon, Fred Ward, Finn Carter, Michael Gross, and Reba motherfucking McEntire, pardon my French. It was produced by No Frills Productions and Pacific Western Productions and had a budget of $10 million and a box office of $16.7 million. Didn't do very good, unfortunately.
No, that doesn't sound too good.
So the idea for Tremors, which draws heavily off of 1950s monster movies, was originally thought of in the early 1980s when writer S.S. Wilson was serving on a Navy base as an editor. One day, while hiking over a set of large boulders that involved pole vaulting, he suddenly had the thought, what if something was under the ground and I couldn't get off this rock? Years later, he came back to that idea after the success of selling his script for the movie Short Circuit. Wilson and Maddox shared their idea for Tremors with their friend Ron Underwood, who was working with National Geographic as a documentary director. And he used his knowledge of zoology to better develop the land sharks into creatures that could realistically exist. After their script for Short Circuit spawned a major box office hit, Wilson and Maddox quickly began shopping around their ideas for Tremor, which was called Land Sharks at the time, and eventually changed to Beneath Perfection, which was officially finished in 1988. The film was again renamed to Tremors by a studio executive because he thought the film would do better in Japan considering they had recently had a bunch of deadly earthquakes.
Wow.
Yeah, weird reason to change a name.
Yeah. And in memory to all those who died in Japan in the earthquakes, we're going to name this movie Tremors.
For money, too, though. It's
Yeah.
like, well, it'll do good there because they just had earthquakes, and that's scary.
It's weird that this
Okay.
movie was originally but land sharks.
It was land sharks first, yeah.
I made the comment in my review that this is just kind of like Jaws in the desert.
Yes. Filming began in early 1989 and lasted for over 50 days. Principal photography took place around Lone Pine in Darwin, California, which the crew liked because of how similar it was to the fictional town of Perfection, Nevada, which was an entirely brand new set built for the film near Olancha, California. Most of the set was made by the production team, finding shacks in small buildings located on the side of the road, purchasing them, and then relocating them to the film set. So yeah, those are all real little shacks and stuff.
One way to do it.
I think that the main one that they built, or the only one they built, was the store, if I remember right.
I feel like it would be cheaper to just pay somebody to build a little shack.
It wasn't, because I watched an interview with the set designer, and he said he would pay them like $15-$25 for the shack.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was very cheap.
That's pretty cheap.
The Graboid for the Tremors was designed by Amalgamated Dynamics, which is an American visual effects company specializing in animatronics and prosthetic makeup, founded by Alec Guinness and Tom Woodruff, which, by the way, this is the same company that made all of those fucking amazing effects for the 2000s. I can't remember what year it was. The remake/sequel of The Thing that all got replaced by CGI. That was them. Which, if you want to see that cool shit, they actually have a YouTube page where you can go there and see all of this awesome shit they've made. Really cool company. So the full-scale Graboid scene after being dug up by Val was cast in lightweight foam. It was placed in a trench and buried and dug up again to achieve that desired dirty effect. Tremors was set for a November 1989 release. However, the MPAA gave the film an R rating, owing it to language. And the creators decided at the last minute to make the film more commercially available. Over 20 or so uses of the word fuck were either cut or redubbed with softer words. Examples include, "Can you fly, you sucker?" and "We killed that mother humper," among several others.
That kind of sucks, man. I wish I could get the original cuts of that.
Yeah.
Because some of the words they use is
It's bad.
It's kind of cringy.
Yeah, but if now that you know that, if you watch the movie again and you look at their mouth, you can tell they're saying fuck quite a few times.
Yeah, I
yeah.
think it would have made this a better movie for me. It would have at least taken it up 1 or 2 points.
While only a modest hit at the box office, Tremors went on to become a massive hit on home video purchases, rentals, and television, becoming one of the most rented films of 1990. Because of this, it gained a very large cult following. Tremors was released on Blu-ray on November 9th of 2010 and again on September 17th of 2013 as part of the Tremors Attack Pack for the US and Canada. It was released on 4K UHD Blu-ray by Arrow Video on December 15th of 2020 with a 4K restoration, which we just talked about. Since obtaining its solid cult classic status, Tremors has spawned several sequels, including Tremors 2 Aftershock in 1996, Tremors 3 Back to Perfection in 2001, a prequel titled Tremors 4 The Legend Begins in 2004, Tremors 5 Bloodlines in 2015, and Tremors A Cold Day in Hell released in 2018, with all but the last two having direct involvement from writers S.S. Wilson and Brent Maddock. In 2003, the franchise spawned a television show titled Tremors the Series. The show aired in 2003 on the Sci-Fi Channel but was canceled after one season because it sucked. But in 2017, a 60-minute pilot for a second television series starring Kevin Bacon was made, but unfortunately wasn't ever picked up and no episodes were ever filmed for the show. All right, so I've always loved Tremors. I remember the first time I seen it. I remember who I seen it with. I have seen this movie a million times. Love Tremors 2. Fantastic movie. Tremors 3 is okay. Never seen anything after that. I do know the fourth one, they go back in time. To the Western days.
Yeah, that's not a good sign.
Bert is in it, but he is like, I don't know,
It's
Bert's
like Doc.
great grandfather or something. I'd never seen that one because I was like, okay, this is crazy.
Doc Emmett Brown's in it.
So what stopped me from going really past 3 was they had it in 2, but it wasn't as bad, and then 3 was terrible, but CGI.
Yeah.
So the first one, there is no CGI, all practical. Second one, a lot of practical, but they did do some stuff with CGI. Third one, pretty much CGI.
Yeah.
They had a CGI Graboid come out of the ground, and I said, oh no.
Yeah, you can't do that, man. That's what makes the original one awesome is the practical effects on the giant graboids.
Yeah.
And I was kind of concerned at how they would look with
the
such
4K?
a good 4K, and they look good, man. The
Look awesome.
puppeteers and the people who built the effects for it, I thought it looked really good. Unfortunately, this came out in a time where its predecessors that came out after it was right in the hype of everything moving to CGI.
Yeah, the two creators, the two writers who had a lot to do with the movies, they actually do not like CGI. They definitely worked to keep the first one. Well, obviously it wasn't CGI in there, but there was some other stuff they could do. But they just wanted it all to be practical. Then the second one came, and I think they kind of let it go a little bit because of money. And then the third one just, there was no way that they could accomplish what they wanted to accomplish without CGI. I would have ditched the idea, but they decided to go forth with it. I remember the show, and I can tell you the problem with the show. CGI.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like pretty much all CGI. So
Yeah, when you're at that time, especially when everything was done with CGI to save money, and you're talking about like giant monster worms that come out of the ground, I'm sure it was really hard to fight off
yeah,
producers wanting to use CGI to save money.
yeah. All right, so ratings. Rotten Tom, 88%. IMDb, a 7.2 out of 10. Letterboxd, a 3.5 out of 5. But the Google average audience rating is a 4.7 out of 5. That's what I'm talking about.
That's kind of crazy high.
Yeah, that's
4.7, almost
Disagree.
a perfect movie.
Disagree.
Yeah, I know you love this movie. The first time I seen this movie was I was very young, probably like 8, when watching it with you. I remember it used to come on TV a good
They come
bit.
on TV many times, yeah.
Yeah, it's for that reason it always holds a special nostalgic place for me. But I would not say that it's a perfect movie, and we could all get together and agree that the ratings board, the MPAA, sucks a big fat fucking dick. One of the things that I really hate about this movie, and it's not like it didn't take it down a ton of points for me or anything, but the ridiculous, like, language that they have to use, and to now find out that that was not the original case, they had to go back and, like, overdub Mother Humper and all this different stuff in there. God, man, I'm so glad that we are entering a time where independent movies have become so big that the theaters can't keep them out for money, and we're now entering a point where the MBAA does not matter as much to
Times
smaller
are
movies.
changing. If you would like to watch this movie, you can currently find it for rent on Amazon Prime for $3.79. All right, so let's dive into the plot of Tremors. So we start out pretty much in the middle of nowhere in Nevada, and I mean nowhere, nowhere. Like there isn't a building or road in sight. And we immediately meet our two main characters, Earl Bassett, played by Fred Ward, and Valentine McKee, aka Val, played by Kevin Bacon, who opens up the film pissing off a big ass cliff. And we see on the side of their truck a sign that says VE Odd Jobs, which tells us that these two dudes make their living doing pretty much whatever somebody is willing to pay them to do.
They're handymen.
There are a lot of different men. Now, right off the bat, we see that these two guys, they get along very well, they enjoy each other's company, but love to talk shit to each other. It is very much a bromance, I would say. Honestly, for me, these two, their chemistry together and the way that they play these characters is one of the things that makes this movie for me. I love them. I think that their absence is another reason the sequels do not hit as hard.
Yeah, I think the shining light in this entire movie is the characters.
Characters are great.
All the characters were great, but especially the chemistry between these two.
So, just to give you some character development here, Fred is the older of the two men by my guess is like 8 years, and he is kind of a rough and tumble kind of guy, a bit of a know-it-all, a little bit grouchy, and he's one of those guys that's been there, done that, not really interested. Now, Val is more of a younger, confident, somewhat cocky guy that is much more fly by the seat of his pants kind of dude. I want to point out something here that is going to come back at the very end of this movie. We see Earl is asleep in a sleeping bag in the back of the truck when Val scares him to wake up, and this causes Earl to fall out of the back of the truck in the sleeping bag. That's all I'm going to say until we get to the end. So I'd never noticed it before till this week.
Well, I know they do talk about a stampede. He wakes him up, scaring him with the stampede. And
yeah, this part of the movie is so much more important than I ever knew. And I will tell you when we get there.
Well, I will say, based off of their question of what's the minimum amount for a stampede, I'm gonna say 5. I think it has to be at least 5 cows to be called a stampede.
Good question. I have no idea. I would say 3 to 5, somewhere
3?
in there.
Man,
I don't know.
3 doesn't scream stampede.
I don't know really, like, the only definition I know of a stampede is animals just running crazy, but I don't know what the amount would be.
Well, apparently they don't either.
Yeah. So they're out here in the middle of nowhere building a fence for some cattle, which, by the way, I don't know if you saw it. I know a lot of people talk about it, but Kevin Bacon trying to use the hammer. He misses 8 or 9 hits probably, and Fred Ward's reaction is pretty hilarious. So it turns out, because a lot of people talk about this scene, turns out this was Kevin Bacon's idea, and he just decided to do it, to miss like almost every time on purpose. And Fred Ward, who plays Earl, his reaction was legit. He had no idea that he was going to be doing this. So he was just like, wow, you really fucking missed the screw or the nail that much.
Yeah, I just want to point out, aside from that, the pole that they are nailing this barbed wire to is not in the ground at all.
No, they did a
They
bad
fucked
job
that up.
building the fence. So once they finish, they load up their truck and they begin the long trip back to town. And when I say town, I don't mean like neighborhoods and stores, shit like that. I mean like a handful of buildings and a population of like 15.
14.
14.
14.
I took a guess. It's 14. Okay.
Yeah, it's 14. I got the arrow sent the actual town sign,
Yeah.
and it's 14.
So, yeah, population of 14, and this little place is named Perfection Valley. So, while driving back, they spot an unfamiliar truck parked off the side of the road, and Val realizes that this must be the new grad student sent here to study seismology, which is also supposed to be a woman. And I'm sure you can imagine there aren't many new single women around these parts, so needless to say, he's pretty stoked. And while driving over to her, he attempts to manifest her attractiveness by saying she's gonna have long blonde hair, big green eyes, world-class breasts, ass that won't quit, and legs that go all the way up. And as he slams on the brakes right in front of her, she stands up, and we see that she is pretty much the exact opposite of everything he just said.
Yeah, she is not the blonde bombshell he was hoping for, but she does stand a chance of being pretty cute here. The sunscreen on the nose, though, good God,
Yeah,
that's never good.
as she walks over with a big smile on her face with her nose completely covered in white sunscreen, we see that Val is less than thrilled.
Yeah.
Man, and while talking to Val and Earl, we find out that her name is Rhonda LeBeck, and she has been sent here by the college to study earthquakes. And she says that she has been getting some pretty strange readings from her seismograph, which is really weird because there is no one else out here to be causing any large ground vibrations. So after that, they then continue driving towards Perfection, where Earl tries to talk Val into getting to know Rhonda, but he quickly shoots this down, saying that he has zero interest in getting to know her. So once they arrive into town, they pull up and head into the only store in probably like fucking 50 miles. And this is where we meet the majority of our cast. First, we have Bert and Heather Gummer, who are your typical gun-loving prepper / survivalist who are very paranoid of the government, hence why they moved all the way out here to Perfection. Then we have the owner of the store, Walter Chang, who's all about making some money and making some deals. Next is Melvin, who is an annoying shithead teenage boy that loves to piss everybody off, especially Earl, Val, and Bert. Then we have a middle-aged woman named Nancy and her young daughter, Mindy, which we don't know a whole lot about except for that she runs some kind of business that she sometimes hires Earl and Val to help with. So while these guys are in town catching up with everybody and grabbing some supplies, we jump back over to Rhonda, who is setting up a seismograph, when suddenly we see the needle begin to rapidly move around, indicating that something is close by under the dirt. Now, Rhonda doesn't see this because she is busy packing up some of her equipment, and we see that whatever this thing is makes these large mounds of dirt appear as it travels through the rocks and sand. And that is important because it allows us to see that this thing is headed right for Rhonda. But right before it gets her, she hops into her truck and drives off, having no idea how close she just came from getting attacked by this thing. So this tells us that one, those weird readings she was talking about earlier aren't small earthquakes or blasting from humans. And two, there is some kind of creature that travels underground and is attacking people. So the mounds in the dirt, the ones that move that we see throughout the whole movie, they were done in a very simple way. They would dig a trench, place a boat buoy attached to a rope in the trench, cover it with a bunch of latex mats, and throw dirt over top of it. So when they pulled the buoy, it would look like something large was moving under the ground. Pretty simple trick.
Nice. And they didn't need CGI for it.
They did not. So next we jump back over to Earl and Val, who are attempting to pump Melvin's shit tank, and needless to say, they are not happy with their choices in life that have led them here. So they kind of start bickering back and forth when Earl says that he is this close to saying fuck it and leaving perfection for better opportunities. And Val calls bullshit on Earl, saying, yeah, how close? And as they begin to stare each other down, the pump suddenly malfunctions and proceeds to spray shit all over them. And to make matters worse, Melvin, who is just sitting on his porch watching them, begins to hysterically laugh his ass off.
Yeah, the scene before this, Valentine decides to use a old toilet as like a cooler to hold his beer when they're sitting there. And I was like, man, that's gross. Why would you do that? And I wonder if that was a little bit of foreshadowing for the next scene of them getting covered in shit.
Maybe. I don't think I would have been able to hold back from punching him in the face. Like, especially considering, like, the shit that just sprayed all over me is his shit in particular.
That would fucking piss me off.
Like, I already can't stand him, and then I'm getting stuck doing this, and then his shit sprays all over me, and he just laughs. Like, I think that would be the point where I would hit a child.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck him.
Hey, he's old enough to punch.
Yeah,
just put it like that.
He's got a very punchable face, too.
Yeah.
Needless to say, though, this is the straw that broke the camel's back as we then cut to a freshly showered Earl and Val, who are grabbing their things and packing it in the truck as they plan on leaving town and heading to Bixby, which is a much bigger town far away from perfection. I like how Nancy stops them on their way out and offers them like a month's worth of work plus free beer.
And lunch.
And then we cut to them speeding away from perfection as Val's like, I can't believe we turned down free beer. Like, it's just the lines are very well written and very well placed. Like, they did a really good job of placing the comedy in the movie.
Yeah, I think one thing that I think this is just a theory that's important in this scene is as they're talking to her, her daughter comes up on this pogo stick and Val asks her, like, how many are you on? And she says, like, 600 and something. So clearly this girl's, like, recently into pogo and pogo sticks and counting her bounces.
Well, she's trying to break the record.
I wonder if this constant pogo sticking is what is leading these worms to this town.
Oh, I don't know.
I think
Good
this
point.
may have been an early hint at maybe what was leading these things to this tiny ass town, because there's not a lot of people here. There's not a lot of like noise to be made. Just a thought, but that was kind of a theory that kind of hit me towards the end of the movie.
Well, I mean, living out there, man, she doesn't have shit to do. So pogo sticking it is, I guess. So yeah, we see Val and Earl hauling ass down the highway headed for a better life, and needless to say, they are stoked and extremely optimistic. What could go wrong? Well, how about finding a fucking dead body? Because that is exactly what is about to happen, as Val spots a local drunk named Edgar who has managed to climb a quarter of the way up this electrical tower located in the middle of the desert. So Val and Earl pull up to see if the man needs any help because they assume he's drunk as shit. And after not answering their calls, they decide that one of them is going to have to climb up and get him down. But of course, neither one of them want to do that, so they play a quick game of rock, paper, scissors, where we see Val lose and begin the long climb up. But when he makes it to the man, he finds a very dead Edgar still holding on to a rifle. We then cut to them meeting with the local doctor with the body in the back of the truck, where they ask him what he died from, and he responds dehydration, which means Edgar sat up on the tower for 3 or 4 days until he finally died. Which obviously sounds really weird to Earl and Val because, you know, who would do that?
It's also, you know, funny how this tiny little town of 14 people, their doctor who did not do an autopsy could tell that he didn't die from a heart attack.
Yeah,
any of that.
I thought that for a long time of like, how would you know that?
Yeah, didn't die from any complications of drinking, nothing like that.
He's a movie doctor.
It just happened to be dehydration. And also, I love how they cut straight to that scene. I'm assuming that to get this guy's body down, they kind of just had to chuck him off of this tower.
Yes, they did.
And
There's no
it'd
other way.
probably be really hard to determine the cause of death when somebody just fell like 4 or 5 stories.
We then get a quick scene of an old man working on his garden, which, by the way, how the fuck do you have a garden in the desert? Like, what could you grow in the desert? Cactus. That's what I'm thinking. He is a cactus garden. But yeah, he's working on his cactus garden, and I guess when out of nowhere, his sheep start freaking out. And he thinks it's kind of weird at first, but doesn't really see anything, so he kind of blows it off when suddenly something comes up out of the ground and begins to pull him into the sand. And right as this is happening, we see Rhonda's machine going off like crazy. So we then cut back to Val and Earl attempting to head to Bixby again, when suddenly Earl slams on the brakes after seeing all of these brutally slaughtered sheep, which are the same sheep we just saw with the old farmer guy. So they get out and they run over to see what the hell is going on at old Fred's cactus and sheep farm, but there's no Fred. So they're running around yelling Fred's name, and they're in a bit of a panic because something definitely weird is going on. And after kind of giving up looking, Val spots Fred's hat on the ground, and when he picks it up, we see Fred's face just barely sticking out of the ground, still frozen in fear. This causes Val and Earl to lose it. I love Val's reaction to this. He's like, what the hell is going on? I mean, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, this would 100% be my reaction too if I just found the second dead body in the same day.
Yeah.
I would be like, what the fuck?
On their second trip to Bixby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be that same reaction.
Yeah, so they jump back into the truck and they take off back towards Perfection to report another dead body that they have found. I'm surprised after the second one, like nobody was like, is Earl and Val on a killing spree? Like, what's the chances of them finding 2 dead bodies? Why do they even keep stopping? Just keep going.
Well, I would think that too, but the first one, the guy had been dead for a while, and he apparently died of dehydration, so there's no way they could have killed him.
The doc said. So, on their way back, they come across these construction workers tearing up the road with jackhammers. When Earl then comes to a stop and tells them, there's a killer on the loose, a murderer, a real psycho. He's cutting people's heads off. I'm not kidding. As he then quickly drives off, leaving the workers extremely confused. This would confuse me as well. I would probably be like, that guy's full of shit, and continue working like these guys do.
Same.
So they just go back to working when suddenly the jackhammer hits something soft, when we then hear a loud screech from underground as we start to see a reddish-orange blood oozing from the broken asphalt. And out of nowhere, the jackhammer just takes off down the street as the worker just stands there totally confused. But unfortunately for him, his leg gets wrapped in the power cord, which quickly starts dragging him down the road, where he eventually disappears in a cloud of dust. So we then jump back to the store where we see Val and Earl rush in and inform everybody that Farmer Fred is dead. And as Val attempts to use the phone to call for help, he discovers that it's also dead. We then meet our last 2 characters here who aren't super important and I don't really have backstory for, but they are Miguel, a local cattle herder, and Nestor, who I don't really know what he does or how he fits in the town, but he's here. So the group all decide for Val and Earl to hop back in their truck and drive all the way to Bixby for some help, to which I'm sure they're going to come across another dead body. So we again see them haul ass past the Perfection Valley sign, where we then hear Val say, man, we decided to leave this town one day too late. And Earl says, well, there's nothing to stop us now. Everybody between here and Perfection is dead. And as soon as he finishes his sentence, Val slams on the brakes because that they find a rock slide has now completely taken out the road, effectively trapping them in Perfection. And as they get out of the truck, where they once again find another dead body. Well,
I would be like, kind of. I'm fucking going inside and I'm not doing anything until tomorrow.
They actually find one of the road workers like mashed potato brains laying in and around his helmet, but, you know, same thing.
And it looks good in 4K.
Yeah. So they jump back in the truck, and as Val starts to reverse, the truck gets stuck on something. But thankfully, after a few times of trying, the truck breaks free and they again head back towards the town. So they end up back at the store, where pretty much the whole town has now gathered and everybody is surprised to see them back so soon. And as they all run out to see what is going on, they spot this huge looking snake thing hanging off the axle of the truck, which explains why the truck was stuck earlier. This thing had come out of the ground and grabbed the axle, where Val eventually ripped it in half when he pushed the gas. So this thing's about 10, 12 feet long. It's kind of a cross between a snake and an eel. And we see that it doesn't have any eyes, but it does have a big ass mouth. And everyone's kind of confused on what this thing really is when suddenly Walter looks over at Val and says, "I'll give you $5 for it."
Hey, that's a
Immediately,
good deal, man.
that
This
is a good deal.
like a undiscovered species, man. He gets some money for this.
We know that Earl and Val are always trying to make a buck, which is why Val pauses for a minute and he says, "Make it 20. But Walter's a cheap bastard and he offers him 10, and Earl then settles it for 15. So these guys just sold an unknown species that no one's ever seen or heard of for a whopping $15.
And they think they just like scored.
Yeah, we got $15. Wow. So these snake things are pretty cool. They're all practical. Some of them were cable puppets and then some were hand puppets. And there are some cool videos on like YouTube and stuff that actually show them controlling them in their workshop. They're really awesome. So later that night, we see the doctor and his wife finishing up for the day, and we find out that they are temporarily living in a camper while they build their home on the land. So after they pack their tools away, they take a little break and they sit on the back of their car when suddenly all of the floodlights around the property go out. Now, this isn't a surprise to the couple as they both just assume that the generator ran out of gas. And as the doc walks over to it, he is shocked to find it completely gone with only the power cord sticking out of the ground. So while his wife holds the flashlight, Doc begins pulling the cord where he eventually finds the end chewed off when suddenly about 20 feet away, the generator comes shooting out of the ground and looks to be pretty much destroyed when it lands. This freaks the couple out, causing his wife to try and pull him towards the car, begging to leave. But Doc has went from scared to extremely curious as he thinks this might be a natural geyser or something. And while he is explaining this to her, something swallows up his feet and begins pulling him under. Now, despite his wife trying to pull him back up, it is no use as he gets pulled further and further under until he eventually disappears under the earth. His wife then tries to dig and get a hold of him again when suddenly one of the snake eel things busts out of the ground and almost bites her face, and she pretty much has had enough at this point and leaves Doc behind as she books it to the car. But once in there, she realizes that Doc has the keys. So she's freaking out at this point, and to make matters worse, that snake eel thing's like rubbing its mouth slime all over the windows. And when she looks towards the back of the car, she sees that there is now like 3 or 4 of them trying to get to her. So she realizes that there is no other choice than to just wait it out here in the car, when out of nowhere, they just go away, which allows her to calm down a bit and to catch her breath. And right as she does this, the car suddenly shifts as we see large puffs of dirt surround the vehicle. And then we get an outside shot from above where we see the back of the car slowly sinking into the ground. And as the car goes deeper and deeper, she begins beeping the horn and turning on the brights, hoping that someone will come along and save her. We then hear her scream as we see the beam from the headlights point straight up in the air, where they then quickly disappear underground.
Man, I love this scene. This movie kind of toes the line between like a horror and an action thriller. But this scene is one of the better horror scenes of the entire movie. For one, her watching her husband like get pulled and essentially buried alive as he's pulled underground would be awful for a spouse to witness. But when she's in the car and she's just like waiting as these fucking like snake things start popping up and like fucking with her, it really builds the tension whenever they kind of disappear, and you don't expect for the whole car to essentially be eaten I think at this point in the movie, this is when you really learn as a first time watch, like, okay, these little snake things are not the only thing underground. There is something really big, big enough to literally pull an entire car under the desert floor.
Yeah, I would say that this would be, fucking terrifying. Not only is whatever underneath you, it can literally pull like a 2,000-pound car under the ground. But another thing that is we see the windows bust open and all this dirt starts pouring in the car. So she's either going to be eaten by this thing or buried alive. One of the two. Neither are very good options. So yeah,
I'm
pretty fucking
pretty sure
scary.
she gets buried alive.
Yeah, I don't see how it would be able to get her out of there.
At that point, too, it's just killing to kill. Like, it's
Oh,
not
yeah.
even eating her.
So back at the store, we see that Walter is already making his money back by charging people $3 to take a picture with the snake eel monster, which I just want to point out, Nancy's little girl, Mindy, is played by Ariana Richards, who is known for the original Jurassic Park. She is the old dude's like granddaughter, and I think everybody knows the famous Jello scene from that movie. That's her.
I gotta say, so if he's charging $3 for pictures with this, and outside of him, there's only 13 other people in the town. 2 of them we know are kids, so that leaves, what, like 12? So if he's charging $3, he's gonna make 30. He's got about $16 profit if everybody in the town outside the kids paid him to see this.
He will make
But
$16.
I will say, the aspect of being able to sell this to science. This guy's smart, man.
Oh, yeah,
He's
yeah.
smart.
He
And
immediately
he instantly is like, I want to buy it.
Yep, he immediately wants to buy it. He is a deal maker. Yeah, which makes sense. He has a store. He probably bought the store for super cheap, probably swindled somebody out of the store. So we see that everybody is gathered at the store discussing what they should do. Considering the road is out, they are surrounded by mountains and the phones are dead. And Bert says that they need to arm themselves, set perimeters, and stand guard. And if any of those creatures come around, they will make them extinct. Which fuckface Melvin's all about, which leads to something that I have never been able to figure out. Where the fuck is Melvin's parents?
Dead.
Like, there is no way he lives by himself in one of the nicer trailers in this place, and he's like 15. You never hear or see anything about his parents.
I don't know. Maybe his parents couldn't deal with him anymore. Maybe they left town and he's like, I'm not going. My one friend is here.
I mean, somebody's paying Earl and Val to pump the shit tank, so they got to be alive, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The population of the town's 14, and I guess we see everybody in the town, so I guess the rest of the people in the town just aren't there at the time.
I've always wondered
Maybe
that.
they're doing business in the next town, because there's not a lot of, like, ways to make money in a town where there's essentially, like,
Nothing?
the store. The store would be the store and the doctor, the only 2 ways to make money. So I guess everybody else probably has to work business to the closest bigger town.
I don't know. That's like been a question in my mind for 15 years. Who is this fucking dude's parents? I used to think it was the guy Nestor, but he has his own trailer, and they definitely don't seem like they're father and son or anything. So the group doesn't really like Bert's plan of just waiting out and would rather attempt to send someone for help or find a way to call up to Bixby. And we can tell that Bert and Heather are loving this because remember, they're preppers and they have spent a lot of time and money preparing for a situation where they get to use all their cool prepper toys and knowledge. So after thinking about it a bit, Miguel says, hey, Walter's got some horses. Someone could ride the 38 miles to Bixby. And despite Bert's eager anticipation to shoot something, he agrees that that is a pretty good plan. And who is going to make this ride, you may ask? Our boys, Val and Earl. So the next morning, they load the horses up, grab some guns, bullets, and cheese.
His cheap ass gave him some Swiss cheese.
Here's some bullets and cheese.
Yeah,
Okay.
that goes to show you how cheap he is. He's got a whole store, and all he could come off of was some cheese.
I mean, could give him some bread.
Gave him Swiss cheese too. It's like the worst fucking cheese.
I'm
like if you're
sure.
eating pure cheese, Swiss cheese is not the cheese you really want to be eating.
I'm sure that Swiss cheese is probably not a big seller here in Perfection.
Yeah. It's probably like aged 5 years because nobody's bought it.
So they're about to leave. Bert says that him and Heather are going to go look for Rhonda, tell her what's going on, and bring her back to the store. So we then skip ahead a couple of hours where they see them on their way to Bixby for the 4th time in the same day.
Yeah, and they stop again. It just blows my fucking mind. I'm like, why do you guys keep stopping?
They literally
why
say,
just quit stopping places.
They said, well, we'll stop at Doc's place to warn him. And I'm like, dude, do you want to find more dead people?
Yeah,
like that your goal?
Fuck Doc. Like maybe running by and do like the British are coming. Like the ground snakes are coming.
Nope.
Right off.
Nope. I would be like, we've got to get to Bixby.
Yeah, and 38 miles, man, that is a long fucking way.
I want some horses, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a good ways on a car, let alone some fucking horses. You got 1 horsepower under you, and you got 38 miles to go.
So, of course, when they get there, the couple are nowhere to be found. But what makes this really odd is the camper door is wide open, and they can hear some music playing, but it sounds a little muffled. I would immediately be like, they're dead. Like, they're dead. Like, every fucking time we try to go to Bixby, we find dead people. I know that if we can't see them and they're not coming out when we're yelling for them, they're dead. Let's leave.
Yeah, the fucking 3 dead bodies the day before. Yeah. Nope.
So they look around, but find no sign of them anywhere when Earl kind of thinks about it for a minute and he says, oh, the car is gone. We must have just missed them. Like, that's all. I'm like, yeah, Earl, the car is kind of gone. Different kind of gone, but it is gone.
It's definitely gone.
But Val is like, well, wait, where's the music coming from? So they start following the sounds of the radio when suddenly Val trips over something in the dirt. And as they bend down and start brushing the rocks and sand away, they spot the front grille and headlights of a Ford station wagon that has been vertically buried in the ground. This scene always stuck with me when I was a kid. And I don't know why, but I remember thinking like, it would be terrifying to come across someone's car, especially buried like that. Like, that's not even like regularly buried, like, horizontal. Like, that's vertical. Like, why would you ever bury a car like that? Just freaked me out when I was a kid.
Well, at this point, all they know is one of these snakes that come out of this thing's mouth that they got off of the axle. So they're like, okay, it was strong enough to hold the truck back, but essentially the truck ripped it in half. And then you see this and you're like, oh my God, what are we fucking with here?
Yeah.
Like, we thought we were dealing with sharks and this is a megalodon.
Yep. And with the realization that whatever these things are, they have the ability to pull a whole fucking car underground, they dip the fuck out of there, riding the horses as fast as they can, with Earl saying, here's the plan. We don't stop. We ride like hell. It's a good plan.
Yeah. What's stick to that plan this time?
But that plan quickly goes to shit when suddenly the horse comes to a stop and begins freaking out. And Earl is immediately like, oh shit, the horses are sensing something that they don't like, prompting him to pull out his gun. Val's horse ends up throwing him off and leaving him for dead when Earl's horse gets attacked by one of those snake things, which ends up biting the horse all over and killing it. And as soon as Val shoots it with his rifle, the ground under them starts to move. So as this big mound starts coming up, Val and Earl move out of the way when suddenly this huge creature bursts out of the ground, opens its big-ass mouth, and growls at them. And this is where we see that the snake things are actually this creature's like tongues and kind of arms a little bit. It basically has like these 4 snake things that are able to reach out, grab something, and then like pulls it into the mouth. So a shocked Val and Earl begin shooting at this thing until they run out of bullets, prompting them to take off running with the creature diving back under the ground and chasing them. And as they are running, this thing is quickly catching up to them when Val notices that there is some kind of big concrete drainage ditch right in their path, which they plan to jump over. But they don't make it. They come close, but they don't make it. They're so confident, though, when they jump. Like, they're like, we got it. And then they just don't make it. So now they're inside this drain with this creature heading right for them when it suddenly slams into the concrete wall, damaging it pretty badly and killing the creature, which kind of stuns Val and Earl at first. And once they realize they killed it, Earl calls it a stupid son of a bitch, and Val, who is now super excited, yells, "Fuck you!" as he lets out a big laugh, which quickly comes to an end when Rhonda walks up behind them and scares the shit out of them.
Yeah, I would not trust that this thing died running
Yeah.
into a concrete wall.
Yeah, I'd be a little
I know it
sketched
is
out.
dead in the movie, but I would be like, yeah, I'm not fucking with this thing. We'll come back tomorrow, and if its dead body's still here, then we'll dig it up.
Well, Rhonda walks up too and she's like, "Hey guys, how you doing?" And she somehow does not notice the giant dead creature bleeding like orange blood right in front of her. Just, right over her head there for a second. So they fill her in on what's happening and they pull some of the broken wall away to get a good look at it. And it's basically the size of a fucking car, pardon my French. Rhonda looks it over and says that it doesn't have any eyes, meaning it's totally subterranean and it's probably the biggest zoological discovery of the century, meaning Walter will probably try to buy it for $10. Most definitely.
And they might sell it for $10 because they think that they're swindling somebody when they sell a unknown giant creature that's never been discovered that science will pay tens of thousands of dollars for $10.
So while they're looking at this thing's mouth, Val yells from up top that he found the ass. As the camera then pans up, showing that he has
Found the ass.
dug up the dirt from around the body
And found the ass.
Found the ass. But she's over there like looking at its face, like the beak and everything and the mouth and talking about it. And he's like, "I got the ass."
I gotta say, the creature design on this is great.
Funny story. So originally the creature was designed to, it was basically just kind of looked like a big worm. And then when it would come out of the ground, the mouth would come out of the skin and somebody was like, "We can't make a movie about a giant uncircumcised dick chasing people around the desert."
When you said funny story, my first thought was the original version looked like a dick.
It looked
because
like a dick.
my first thought comes to what was it Dream Warriors
Dream Warrior, giant
with the
Freddy.
big dick Freddy.
Yeah,
And they had to paint it green. Freddy's like green for some reason, and it's because he looked like a giant dick.
Yeah, so they had to make it where the mouth is always like, you can always see it in the mouth. Like there's no like foreskin that covers its fucking face. Because originally that's what it was designed. And thankfully somebody pointed out after they finished building everything and they're like, "Oh, wow, you're right." And they had to remove that. That's how we got this version. But yeah, this is where we finally get to see just how big this thing is. I don't know. It's probably like 25, 30 feet long. It's pretty big. So Rhonda and Earl then join Val back up top, where Rhonda notices these big-ass teeth all over the creature's body, which she assumes it uses to push itself through the dirt, which makes sense on why her machines were like freaking out all over the area. And after thinking about it for a bit, she jumps up, she runs over to her bag, pulling out all these papers, where she then looks up at the two men who are currently discussing how they can sell the creature, of course. And she says that according to her readings all over this place, there's at least 3 more of these things, which totally freaks Earl and Val out, prompting them to immediately head for Rhonda's truck, which is conveniently located just on the other side of that hill, meaning it's pretty far away.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite a distance.
I love how she's like, "There's at least 3 more," and they're like, "What?" And she starts explaining all the scientific
They're
stuff.
like, "We believe you."
That would be me. Like, I don't need to know whatever you're saying. Let's just go. Let's just leave. You can tell me on the way back. Before they make it there, though, Rhonda gets a reading that one is coming up on them fast, causing them to run over to a group of boulders for safety. So this thing pretty much traps them there as we see it just waiting for one of them to try and make a run for it. And this causes them to get stuck there for hours as they hope it will eventually give up and go away, but that doesn't happen. It's kind of a very similar situation what the creature did with Edgar. And they know that Edgar was up there for 3 or 4 days. So they're like, fuck, this is bad.
Yeah, this thing has a lot of patience.
Oh, yeah. So they end up staying the night on this boulder, praying that when they wake up the next day, it'll be gone. And this is where we see that Rhonda is huddled up with our boy Val sleeping. So maybe a little spark of romance just ignited. We'll see. So with the creatures still there, they realize that they got to come up with a plan to get off of these rocks and over to the truck. While Val and Earl argue over it, Rhonda finds this little pile of random long wooden sticks, which she uses to pole vault over to the next set of rocks, which is where the original idea for the movie came from. So once they see her do this, they're like, hell yeah, that's a good plan, and they follow suit.
I'd be like, no, Rhonda, I cannot fucking pole vault.
I love when Earl goes to try it and he goes like halfway up and then he falls backward.
That would be me.
That's why I love it. I'm like, that would be me.
Yeah.
100% be me.
She literally does it and she's like, can you guys pole vault? And I would 100% be like, fuck no, I cannot pole vault.
I can't pole vault, but I will try.
Yeah. And where did these like 3 giant wooden pole vaults come from?
The production.
On this rock.
Interesting fact, all of the boulders, except for the first one that they're on and the last one by the truck, are all fake. They were built for this scene. They were hollow, which caused a bunch of problems with the sound because the wind would blow on them and it would create, because they're hollow, it's like a speaker, and it would create issues. But yeah, the first one that they actually say the night on is a real boulder. A lot of people will go and visit it to this day. The last one by the truck is real, but they had to build a bunch of fake boulders in between just for the scene. So they finally make it to the truck where as soon as they land in the bed, the creature starts attacking them. But thankfully, Rhonda is able to crawl inside, start it, and this allows them to escape. So they end up back at the store where we see that everyone's there except Bert and Heather. And Val and Earl explain that the snake-looking things are just the tongues and that the creatures are actually huge. Everybody then starts asking Rhonda questions about the creatures, but she explains that she has no idea because they're basically a new discovery.
Are you going to ignore how Val punches one of these things in the face in the back of the truck?
Yeah, I do like that.
They're in the back of the truck and these fucking snake things start popping up and Val literally punches it. Like, that's his first reaction. He just waylays this fucking thing.
But is he wrong?
No, it works.
That's what I would do. Do the same thing. So, because they're so new, they don't have a name yet, prompting Walter to come up with the name Graboids. So, despite, I know a lot of people call them Tremors. I did for a long time as well, but yes, they're Graboids.
I like Walter, and Walter's smart. He's
already naming it, so you could trademark it and then get money every time somebody uses it.
You discover something, you get the naming rights.
Yeah.
It's like, why does nobody want to capitalize on the naming rights? We need to do this right now.
He's not thinking about surviving. He's thinking about surviving and coming out rich. That's thinking ahead. Earl talks about thinking ahead, but he's thinking days ahead.
Yeah.
Walter's thinking years ahead.
Yeah, Walter's got Earl beat on the planning.
So Earl and Val are like, who cares about the fucking name? We need to find a way to get out of here. But Nancy says some help should arrive soon once somebody discovers that the phone lines are down and the road is out. We then get a quick shot of Nev Cal Telephone Company parked on the road where the construction workers were killed, and we see that they are now also dead. So no help coming anytime soon. So back at the store, the gang is all discussing how to get out of the valley by using the old Jeep trail that leads into the mountains when Nancy goes looking for her daughter Mindy, when suddenly they all hear Melvin scream.
I hate this woman, man. How's she like they're all discussing it, and she's like, "Okay, I'm gonna go get my daughter." And fucking Doofus is like, "Yeah, I seen her playing down the street." Like, your daughter's pogo sticking around fucking town while y'all are all huddled together in the I guess store
Yeah,
discussing how to survive. And what is this girl, like 8?
something like
And
that.
she's just playing around town on a pogo stick?
I guess they assume there's been no monsters in the town yet. This has all happened kind of out in the middle of nowhere.
This
So
could all happen right outside of town.
yeah, she's a little loose with her parenting. Who cares?
Oh, well,
Her daughter
she almost
survives.
pays for it.
So they all run outside where they see that he has climbed a pole, and right when Earl goes to yell at him, a graboid comes bursting out of the ground right in front of Earl. And this is our first really, really good shot of the graboids, and it looks awesome. This was actually, so how they did it was they dug a big ass hole, and the graboid is basically like a big puppet. So one of the special effects guys actually had to crawl inside of it with a what's it called? A little air canister, right? And they buried him alive for, the director says, up to an hour. He would be in there, and then he would get some kind of signal, and he would literally bust out of the ground in this graboid puppet. And that's how they did it, man. It was really interesting. And I seen in the documentary, they actually go back to where they filmed it, which is wild because they tore everything down. Like, there's nothing out there. But he did find this graboid hole still there. It's still a hole.
Yeah, I would be like, when I went to puppet school, nobody said anything about being buried alive for an hour.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna pass on the bury me alive for an hour.
Yeah, that's wild, man. So when this happens, it causes the group to take off running back to the store where they attempt to hide out and keep quiet. That is until they hear the sound of Mindy and her pogo stick out on the road. Thankfully, though, Val is about to run out and save her just in the nick of time as we immediately see Mindy's gravity-defying toy get sucked into the ground. Why the pogo stick stayed upright when she fell off of it, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's weird. It just it doesn't ever fall down. Defies gravity.
It's a magic pogo stick.
It's
And
yeah.
now, because of Wendy's mom's fucking awful parenting, everybody's split up.
Yes. The group is scattered. Earl makes it back to the store. Nancy and Mindy run inside their house. Val ends up on top of Earl's truck, and Rhonda gets tangled up in some barbed wire. The graboid then starts using the wire to reel Rhonda in, kind of like a fish, causing Val to run over and hit it with a pickaxe, distracting it just long enough for him to help her out of her pants and free her from the wire, which happens just in time as we then see the pants get shredded by the graboid's mouth.
If only that was the way to get out of everything.
Just take your pants off.
Just take your pants off.
In honor of this episode, I am currently doing this with no pants on. So they end up back in the store once again discussing escape down the old Jeep trail when suddenly Walter's loud-ass freezer cuts on, drawing the attention of the graboids. Walter, Val, and Earl run over to unplug it, but unfortunately it is too late as we then see a graboid burst through the floor of the store where it grabs Walter and begins eating him. And this is fucking awesome because we see Walter halfway down the graboid's throat as it just like thrashes around with him, like screaming for help, until it eventually retreats back down underground, taking a still alive Walter with it.
You think Walter's in there in the stomach thinking about how he could profit off of this? He's like the book. The book that I'm going to write, like I'm the only one who ever survived a graboid inside of its stomach.
So this actually...
New York Times bestseller.
That actually does happen in 3. Bert is eaten by a graboid, and he radios the guy he's working with to help him, and the guy literally cuts the graboid open, like sticks a chainsaw on the ground and cuts it open, and Bert comes out of him.
And this is why I do and do not need to watch 3.
So, 3 is great because it's called Back to Perfection. They actually come back to this town and it looks the same. They have a lot of this, almost, I think actually all the surviving characters come back except for Earl and Val. But everyone else that's in this movie is in that movie. It's cool.
Except
Yeah.
the practical effects. They didn't make it to set.
Some of them did. They did, I think, the bigger Graboids like that. But in the third one, the Graboids fly.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
Also, this death scene here is, it pays homage to one of the most famous deaths in the original Jaws movie. So after that, we see the other 2 Graboids bust through the floor, causing everyone to get up on the shelves where they escape to the roof through a hatch, except for Rhonda, who ends up falling out of a window and climbing up on a water tower next to the store. So after all that, we see Bert and Heather pull up to their compound where Heather looks down at the town with her binoculars, where she notices something really weird as everybody is on the roofs just standing around. So she tells Bert about this, which causes him to radio down to the store to see just what the hell is going on down there. Because remember, Bert left the same time Val and Earl took off towards Bixby on the horses. So they have no idea about the Graboids. They still think it's the snake things. So they radio him back and try to explain when they suddenly realize that the Graboids are now heading for Bert's place, to which they try to warn him about, but Bert's a little stubborn, and instead of getting on the roof, they just grab some guns.
I mean, if I thought it was just these snake things too, I wouldn't think it's gonna like bust through my basement.
Well, he does try to tell them on the radio that they're underground, but he just kind of drops the radio and he's looking out the window, like he's just like, "Fuck what they're saying. I'm looking to see it coming." So as soon as they lock and load, a Graboid comes bursting through Bert and Heather's cinder block basement wall, causing them to light it up with bullets, which doesn't seem to do a whole lot to the creature. So a couple things here. One, when Val and them are standing on the roof and they hear Bert shooting, I think they did a fantastic job with the sounds of the gunfire from far away. That's something a lot of movies fuck up. That's exactly what they sound like from a distance. So that was really good. 2, this scene is some very impressive camera work and editing because the Graboid coming through the wall is a miniature. Very, very small set. And they managed to make it look like Bert and Heather are standing in front of it. But all the scenes of the Graboid thrashing the wall and hitting the fucking ceiling, it's all a miniature. Yeah.
That's
very
pretty
impressive.
cool.
So once they realize the hunting rifles aren't killing this thing, they then walk over to their literal wall of guns. It is a wall of guns.
Yeah. Nothing says prepper like a wall of this is like a gun shop.
Yes, it is very nicely done.
If you put a counter in front of this would totally be a gun shop.
So they grab something more powerful when Bert then almost gets eaten, but is thankfully saved by Reba, causing him to jump up, run over to this cabinet, bust the glass out, and grab his fucking elephant gun, where he blasts 2 shots right into its mouth, killing it. One thing I love about the sequels, because the first few were done by the same guys, there are a ton of callbacks. And in the second one, we actually get to see Bert's basement again, where he has this exact Graboid that he killed stuffed and mounted on this very wall where it burst through.
That's
That's
a
cool.
very Bert thing to do.
Yeah, it's cool. That's one thing I really love, though, is 2 and 3.
It's the continuity.
Total, yeah. I mean, they mention even little things, like little things that you would never know unless you watch this movie so many times. So in the second one, Fred Ward comes back. So Earl is in the second one as the main character, but obviously Kevin Bacon doesn't come back. So they replace him with another guy. And throughout the second one, they constantly kind of poke fun that this wasn't the original guy. Yeah, they do.
Oh,
really,
he's supposed to be the original guy?
he's not. But so he is working with Earl, and every time they meet somebody, they're like, "Oh man, we love what you did in the or we read about what happened in Perfection when you dealt with this the first time." And then they'll be like, "But you're not the other guy." Like, where's the other
Yeah.
guy? And yeah, they just kind of constantly kind of poke fun at that. So after all that, Bert radios that he managed to kill one, and Earl then comes up with the plan that since Bert and Heather have the only four-wheel drive left in the valley, they should leave now for the old Jeep trail and bring back help. But unfortunately, that plan goes to shit before it even gets started once they realize that one of the Graboids is attempting to dig out the foundation of the store in order to get the building to collapse, leaving Val, Earl, and Miguel fucked. Pardon my French. The roof then starts to shift and move under their feet, causing them to realize it is only a matter of time until they got to make a move. The Graboids then head over to Nestor's trailer, which is much easier to knock over than a building, and pretty easily flip it over, knocking Nestor to the ground where he attempts to hide on top of a tractor tire. And Val's like, that's not high enough.
Yeah, Nestor deserves this for getting on the roof of a
Trailer.
tiny ass mobile home. Like it's not even a big one. It's like a tiny shitty one.
He should have just ran next door to
Exactly.
Nancy's house. Like, can I get on your
ran
roof?
anywhere. He could have just ran in the dirt, and he would have had just as good a chances.
So, of course, this is a stupid fucking move, and we quickly see him pulled down through the center of the tire where he is killed. And to make matters even worse, while all this is going on, we see the other Graboid destroy Bert's truck. So now there isn't any way to get to the old Jeep trail and escape. By the way, Bert's truck was actually Michael Gross's real-life truck that he bought brand new in the early 80s, and he drove that truck until the early 2000s when he then bought a newer model of the same truck that he still drives to this day. He doesn't like to spend money on vehicles.
No,
A nice truck.
it's not broke, don't fix it.
No. So now with no vehicles left, everyone's spread around multiple locations and the Graboids tearing the buildings down from beneath them. They desperately need a plan and fast. Val then says that they need a helicopter or a tank when suddenly this girl gives Earl an idea. I should have counted how many times someone says, I have a plan or I have an idea. Lots of plans and ideas in this movie. He says, what about the cat, which is basically a piece of construction equipment that you can load or tow heavy objects, pretty much a bulldozer. I don't know the definitions of bulldozer, so.
It's a bulldozer.
I think it's a bulldozer, but it's not called a bulldozer, and somebody in the comments will be like, it's not a bulldozer, you dumbass, it's a something.
Such a fucking idiot, man. How did you not research
I don't know.
What a cat is?
Earl then says that the cat weighs at least 30 tons and there's no way they'd be able to stop it. They then plan on hooking it up to an old 18-wheeler trailer in order to transport everybody out of the valley. The only problem is the cat is way on the other side of the town, which my guess is probably around 400 or 500 yards away. So, considering that somebody is going to have to make the run out there, they decide that the best option is to create a decoy in order to distract the Graboids just long enough to get to the cat. And Miguel comes up with a good idea, rigging up Walter's old rotting lawnmower to drive out the opposite direction, leading the Graboids away from the area. One thing I do love about this movie is you do get a lot of smart ideas, and the characters are very good at thinking on their feet. And I seen one of the writers was talking about that, and he said one thing that drives him nuts in horror movies is you maybe only have one really smart character, and he wanted all the characters in this to be pretty smart, and I think that he accomplished that.
Yeah. Miguel's the MVP here. This was really smart.
So once everybody agrees, they get ready to put the plan in motion when suddenly the store's roof partially collapses. Really cool thing about the roof collapse is the set designer actually designed and built this roof where it would collapse on command. Then it could be jacked back up and reset in order to do multiple takes of the scene. And when they would jack it back up to reset, it would just go right back to normal and look like nothing ever happened. It was really awesome. So they literally made this roof where it could move around and all this stuff, and then they could literally just put it right back to what it looks like. That's awesome.
I want one of those.
Yeah, because The outside of the store they built, the inside of it is just, lumber 2x4s and everywhere. The actual inside of the store scene was shot in a studio. So they were able to build like a bunch of contraptions in the actual building of the store. It was pretty cool. So they lower Miguel down to get the mower going, and while he works on that, Val and Earl argue over who is making the run for the cat, which leads to another game of rock, paper, scissors, to which Earl wins and declares he is making the run. He then gives Miguel the signal to start the mower, which we see take off down the dirt road, causing the graboid to follow it, and right as Earl goes to run, Val goes to give him a high five, but quickly moves his hand, elbowing Earl in the stomach, causing Earl to go down to his knees, as we then see Val jump off of the roof, heading towards the cat. Dude, when he jumps on that, overhang, and it, partially collapses, and he, bounces off of it and lands on his ass, that looks to me like something didn't go right.
Yeah.
It looked like it was supposed to completely collapse, and it didn't, and they just kept it in.
Kevin Bacon's like, I'm never doing another one of these fucking movies again.
Yeah, it definitely looks like something didn't happen the way it was supposed to happen.
Or it's just really, really good acting.
Yeah, it could be. So the plan is going great as we see the graboids quickly catching up to the mower as Val hauls ass towards the cat, when suddenly the mower hits a pile of dirt, causing it to flip over on its side and shut off, which in turn leads to the graboids feeling the vibrations of Val's boots hitting the ground as he runs. So they, of course, turn around and begin heading for him, who is only about halfway to the cat at this point. This is where we get that cool camera shot of the graboids hauling ass through the dirt. So they did this. This is super simple. They did this shot by pointing the camera up towards the sky, and they placed a long tube over the lens, and they just poured dirt into the tube. That was it. Bunch of really simple practical ideas done on this movie.
Yeah, I would have never thought of that.
Yeah, that's just I don't know, it's just so simple.
Thinking back at it, it doesn't knowing how they do it now, it still doesn't look like that.
Yeah, it's wild. So right before Val makes it, Rhonda yells for him to stop and not to move because the graboids are about to catch up to him. So he stops and he stands perfectly still while the graboids pop out of the ground close by and begin to use their snake tongue things to search for him. Now at this point, Earl realizes that it's only a matter of time before they find Val, so they have to come up with another distraction that will bring the graboids back over to them. And Rhonda comes up with a great idea. Now remember, she's stuck on a water tower next to the store. So she climbs down the ladder a bit and kicks the pipe until it breaks, causing tons of water to begin pouring all over the ground, which catches the graboids' attention, leading them away from Val, who then gets in the cat, starts it, and begins hooking the trailer up. Meanwhile, back by the store, for some reason, Rhonda is still on the ladder when suddenly one of the graboids wraps its snake tongue around it, manages to pull it down right before she makes it back to the top of the tower. Now, with the cat and the trailer all set up, Val drives into town where he picks up Rhonda, Earl, Miguel, Nancy, and Mindy and heads for Bert and Heather, who we see are still on the roof making some pipe bombs. Once they pull up the Berts, he and Heather then load a bunch of guns, ammo, and bombs into the trailer, and when they take off, we see Melvin run over and ask Bert for a gun, to which he responds, "I wouldn't give you a gun if it was World War III." To which I said, me neither. I wouldn't give that fucker a gun.
You can tell Bert's just been dying to make some pipe bombs.
Yeah.
This dude's got a fucking hard on making these pipe bombs. He's like, I might fuck one of these pipe bombs. I might, when the sun goes down, I might unscrew this pipe and stick my dick in it.
He might. So now that they got everybody, they then head for the mountains while the graboids continuously try to fuck with the cat. I love, they're driving away and Bert looks at his compound and he says, food for 5 years, 1,000 gallons of gas, air filtration, water filtration, Geiger counter, and bomb shelter. But what takes us down? Goddamn underground monsters. You can't plan for underground monsters.
No.
That's out of that's out of left field, dude. We get it.
But pipe bombs do help.
They do. Should have had some pipe bombs already built.
Yeah,
That's where he fucked
I
up.
thought about that, and I'm sure Bert did too. And they probably
probably
have an
illegal.
expiration date. Like
Or
they
they're
probably
illegal.
can't sit for. I don't think this guy cares about illegal. There's no police in this town. They've even
that's true.
mentioned that they had to go to the next town to get the police.
That's true. So after a while,
Bert is probably in his head. He is the police of this town. He's like,
I'm
I got
sure.
more guns. I definitely, if something needs to get done, I'll make sure it's done.
Well, he did build.
Who's gonna not listen to Bert?
He did build his compound overlooking the whole town.
Yeah.
I can see if anybody's doing anything wrong.
Bert probably has himself a little sheriff badge that he's made in it, just in case he's gotta do martial law.
So after a while, the Graboids leave them alone and go kind of far away and start doing something. We can't really tell what they're up to, except for some kind of digging or some sort, because all you can really see is like clouds of dust and stuff. And our characters here don't really give a shit because they have almost reached solid rock. So a little bit later, they're just driving along when suddenly the front of the cat falls into this big hole, which was a trap dug by the Graboids. And this causes the whole front end of the cat to get stuck, and the impact throws most people off and onto the ground. So the shot where we see the cat fall into the hole, you notice how Bert is he's standing in the front loader, the bucket. That's actually not Michael Gross, who plays Bert. It was actually the director, and he dressed up like Bert and he did the scene. Kind of weird. I don't know why they did that.
Bert was off fucking a pipe bomb.
He was off doing something, but for some reason, I don't know if the director wanted to be in the movie. I don't know. They didn't say why, but yeah, that's actually not Michael Gross.
Bert had to take a really, Michael Gross was like, I have got to take a massive shit. So I'm not going to be to do this scene.
He's like, if I fall off the front of this cat and shit my pants. I don't know. So
I can't shit my pants in front of Reba. I just can't do it.
I wouldn't want to shit my pants in front of Reba either. So once everybody gets back into the trailer, Bert passes out some guns and grabs some pipe bombs, where he instantly lights one and drops it next to the trailer, which when it goes off, scares the Graboids away for a bit, and this gives Rhonda an idea. It's now her turn to have another idea. She then proposes to Bert that they throw some of the bombs in the direction they want to go, scaring the creatures away just long enough to run like goddamn bastards, which was just weird.
The MPAA didn't have a problem with that one.
Oh, man, yeah. So they're going to run towards some boulders like goddamn bastards. The group agrees as everyone... Does goddamn bastards run faster than everyone else, the whole world?
Usain Bolt was a goddamn bastard.
Must have been. So the group agrees as everyone, including Melvin, gets a gun and prepares to run. Bert then tosses the bomb and they take off running, where Melvin quickly realizes that Bert gave him an empty gun, which is great. So they end up making it to the rocks, but the realization that they are once again all trapped in the middle of nowhere sets off a bit of an argument between Bert, Val, and Earl. So a little while later, Bert says that if it looks like he is going to die from starvation, then he is just going to light a pipe bomb and walk out there, letting a Graboid take him and exploding in the process. Now, this sounds pretty grim to everybody else, but it gives Earl an idea, which is to lure a Graboid to the surface, toss out a bomb with a rope tied to it, and slowly drag the bomb back towards them until the Graboid eats it, where it will then explode. So pretty much like Graboid fishing. So Rhonda and Val begin tossing rocks into the sand, which does indeed bring one to the surface, where we then see Earl toss the bomb out towards it, and after only a few pulls of the rope, the Graboid opens its mouth and swallows the bomb, where it then explodes, sending orange guts and slime all over Earl and the gang. So these guts were made from cotton batting, stuffed inside pantyhose, covered in slime and pumpkin pie filling.
It looked like pumpkin pie filling.
I had thought for years it was like pumpkin guts, but it is just pumpkin pie filling and a bunch of other shit.
That is kind of pumpkin guts.
Kind of. So that's one down and one to go. We then see Val and Rhonda again tossing rocks as Earl and Bert set up the next pipe bomb. Once the Graboid comes to the surface, Val tosses the bomb right in front of him, where he does take it, but he immediately spits it out where it flies through the air, landing in the worst place ever on Bert's duffel bag full of other bombs and almost killing everybody.
It's a good thing I keep this one in my pocket.
Well, thankfully Val had kept one as well. Somehow, Val, Earl, and Rhonda end up like 50 feet away.
Yeah, I was waiting to get to that part. Did I miss something?
Well, even Bert.
Why did they end up so far away?
Even Bert, like, what are you doing all the way over there? Like, they literally go really far away. I don't know why. But yeah, when they go to run back, the Graboid cuts them off by bursting out of the ground right in front of them. But doesn't try to eat them because it knows that if it does, Val will just throw the pipe bomb at it. So it backs off, hoping Val will use the bomb anyway, but Val has figured this out and refuses to fall for the Graboid's trap. So he looks over at a very concerned Earl and says that he's going to go for it. And Earl's like, Go for what? Which is the same thing I thought when I seen it. Like, wait, did I miss the plan? Is there a plan? Val doesn't answer and instead just takes off running in the opposite direction. Let me back up real quick. One thing I do find hilarious is that many times in this movie we see Val and Earl argue. They even have an argument, but it's a whisper argument during this very hectic scene. I love it. That's great. So Val doesn't answer, instead just takes off running in the opposite direction, screaming back to Earl, who is now running behind him for some unknown reason, that he's got a goddamn plan. Pardon my French.
That's my buddy. I gotta go after him.
The now very angry Graboid lets out a loud growl and immediately begins chasing them, and they pretty quickly end up at the same cliff we seen Val pissing off of at the beginning of the movie. He then lights the bomb while standing on the edge, throws it behind the Graboid, which, when it goes off, causes it to head right for Val even faster. Val then jumps out of the way, where we then see the Graboid burst out of the side of the cliff and fall to its death, as we then see it splatter on the rocks below.
I love the Graboid splatter. Like, I love that whole shot.
Also a miniature.
And the audio that they added into it sounded super gross.
Yeah, it's a miniature. They filmed it in a parking lot. It was just a little miniature set with a little miniature Graboid. So remember, at the beginning of the movie, I talked about the scene where Val wakes Earl up in the sleeping bag. Well, the reason that scene is important is because it actually replicates what happens here at the end. Because you will notice that Earl in the sleeping bag resembles a Graboid, and he falls face first off the back of the truck to the ground below, just like this monster. This scene also takes place in the exact location as the last scene, which is what gives Val the idea. He literally says, it just came to me. He imagined Earl falling off the back of the truck and hitting the ground.
Well, he says stampede, and that's how he wakes him up.
Exactly. Yeah. So he says, like, it literally came to me, and it's literally the whole beginning of the scene. The beginning scene of the movie is what gives him the idea to trick the monster and have it fall off of the cliff. So that scene is very important to the story because it literally gives him the idea how to kill it later on. And I never knew that. Never caught that.
You never. So I didn't catch him falling off in the sleeping bag being like the Graboid, but yeah, the whole stampede part, yeah, and it being at the same spot.
Well, I thought he was just referring to the stampede story like they were in the same area, but I never really put two and two together where Bert is in the sleeping bag. I think the sleeping bag is even the same color as a Graboid, like tan. And he falls off after yelling stampede, and it's like that is what gave him the idea.
Yeah, I never thought about him falling out in the sleeping bag.
Yeah. So later on, we see a now washed up and changed Val and Earl, who are installing new tires on their truck in preparation to finally drive, hopefully make it, to Bixby to get help, which would be what, the fifth trip.
Don't stop. That's all I could say is just don't stop.
If you count the trip in the cat that they did make, I think it's the sixth trip to Bixby. But Val says that they need to start making phone calls as soon as they get there because they could end up in People magazine.
Yeah, I highly doubt People magazine's gonna give a fuck about a new species discovery.
Well, in the second one, we see in Earl's house the cover of People magazine with him and Val on it.
Well, I highly doubt in real life. Like, People magazine is like a celebrity thing. Now National Geographic, that's a more attainable goal.
So Rhonda then walks over and snaps a picture of the two men. I think that picture is the People magazine picture in the second one. As Earl then walks off and lets them have their moment. Because we didn't really talk about it in the episode, but Earl has been trying to get these two together like the whole movie, which good for him, trying to hook his boy up.
I love how Rhonda thinks the government's going to let her be a part of the research into this.
They're going to be like, okay, thanks, fuck off.
Yeah.
You haven't even graduated college.
This college girl who studies earthquakes. Get the fuck out of here.
So
we're taking this whole town over.
So they stand there and they talk for a bit when it becomes very obvious to Earl that Val is straight up blowing it with Rhonda.
Yeah, he's awful.
Yeah. I love Earl's reactions during this whole conversation. She then says thanks for saving her life and walks off, where we see Earl slam the hood of the truck in disapproval, where Val then turns around and says, I'm working up to it. Val then runs after Rhonda, and when he catches up to her, they share a long and romantic kiss. And that is the end of Tremors. So, quick thing, the original ending they filmed, Val doesn't go after Rhonda, but the test audiences kept chanting kiss her, so they actually had to call the actors back and film this last scene, which tested a lot better with audiences.
Well, yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Because if they would have ended the movie on his awful his awful blowing it moment with Rhonda, that's a pretty bad ending.
All right, so a couple more facts here. Kevin Bacon originally resented being in Tremors, only agreeing to do it because he needed the money. And when the film was not financially successful, Bacon feared that his career was over, and in following years would refuse to acknowledge the film's existence and even called it the worst thing he ever did. However, Bacon would eventually come around to Tremors, calling the filming of Tremors to be the single most fun time he had ever had making a movie in his entire career. He said, I never watch my movies more than once. Some of my movies I've never even seen before and have no desire to. But I've watched Tremors a dozen times and I love it so much. And I spent years trying to capture the same energy we had on the set of Tremors. It is one of my favorite films of all time.
Yeah.
Very different attitude.
Yeah, very different attitude when you're rich and you made it.
Well, he actually, he talks a lot about this in detail, where he says that he had been in about 3 flops before this and he was broke and he was angry, and he actually had his first kid during filming of this movie. And he said that he was really bitter and resentful for his career at the time, and he blamed Tremors for pretty much what happened before Tremors. And he said, after a couple of years of that, he realized that it was not Tremors' fault. It was his fault for picking such shitty movies to be in. And Tremors actually was a kind of a good thing for his career because it blew up on VHS. It was huge.
So he had the most fun of his life filming a movie while he was missing the birth of his child.
He didn't miss it. So his wife came with him where they were filming, because they were actually all staying in a little bit bigger of a town a few miles away. And he was filming the last scene of the movie, which is actually Walter's death. And as he finished filming that scene, they got a phone call. His wife was in labor, and they took him immediately, and he didn't miss the birth. So he made it. So in each contest of rock, paper, scissors, Earl always throws scissors.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah,
I'm like, does Val ever catch on that he does scissors every fucking time?
They actually continue the rock, paper, scissors thing in the second one, too. Though they are never mentioned or appear, a scene in the script where we had dialogue between Val and Earl reveals that Melvin's parents spend most of their time in Las Vegas and they continuously leave him behind.
I would leave him behind too. That kid fucking sucks, man. Can we all agree that he should have died?
Yeah, he's in the third one.
Oh, God.
So it's called Back to Perfection because if I remember right, he actually becomes like a real estate developer and he is trying to sell the whole entire town of Perfection to a big real estate development company to build a neighborhood or condos or something. And they're having a problem because of the Tremors being there or the Graboids being there. It's like protected land, and he has found a loophole to get rid of this protected land.
So he's an awful real estate agent.
He is like a bad guy in the third one.
He's trying to build a neighborhood in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
where nobody would ever buy houses.
Yeah, there's something to. I can't remember the exact reason,
idiot.
but yeah, he and Bert hates him there too. All right, so ratings and kill count. We got a total of 10 kills. We have Edgar, who died from dehydration. Fred, the cactus farmer, eaten by a Graboid. Carmine, which is a construction worker, dragged and eaten by a Graboid. The other construction worker got crushed by a rock slide. Doc was eaten alive by a Graboid. Doc's wife was buried alive or eaten. We don't know. Nev Cow Worker 1 found dead. Nev Cow Worker 2 found dead. Walter was eaten alive by a Graboid. And Nestor was eaten alive by a Graboid. All right, so I'm up first, and my favorite kill, hands down, Walter. Second favorite, Doc's wife. What you got?
Oh, let's see what I got here. So I went with Walter. Walter, obviously, his upper torso being slung around the fucking store is absolutely awesome. I think it is by far the best kill in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
And then I went with Dr. Jim. Seeing him pulled under the ground, like, super slowly. Like, you're slowly being buried alive and also eaten at the same time.
It's a bad deal.
It'd be pretty awful. I wish I could have picked the worms, man. The worms had the best kills in the movie.
Yeah. But I'd pick Doc's wife because it just creeps me out thinking, like, you just got buried alive in a car, man.
I thought horror-wise, that was the best horror scene of the movie.
All right, well, it is rating time. What do you think I gave this movie?
Just something stupidly, ridiculously
I gave it a
high.
fucking 5, pardon my French. I love this movie. It is a classic movie to me. It is one of my comfort movies. I can put this on. Shit, I watched it 3 times this week and only really needed to watch it once.
Do you watch it and stick your dick in a pipe bomb?
I stick my dick in the little hole in the Blu-ray, in the 4K disc.
Well, it sucks to be able to do that.
Yeah, well, I work with what I got. I love this movie, man. Everything about it. I used to have an issue with the mother humpers and stuff, but now I've just dealt with it for so long. It's just kind of part of the funny for me. Especially if you just watch their mouth, you can see them saying fuck.
I mean, it's every now and then, like, you get like a tics, and that the dialogue in that movie
like another
is hilarious
5 for me,
because
though.
it's 90s. But
I love Ticks. I love Tremors. I just really love fun, cheesy monster movies, I guess, from the 90s and late 80s.
Ticks was awesome, though, man. I'll take Ticks over Tremors.
No way. No.
Yeah.
Tremors is better. Don't tell Ticks I said that. But for me, it's got a really great blend of the comedy and the horror. I love all the characters. The characters are great. I love the characters being smart, and they do seem like they're kind of more realistic characters. I love that this movie is all practical, and what they did with especially doing it in the daylight, which I've seen them talking about how they were really worried what the effects were going to look like in the daylight, and they look awesome. So just overall, man, this is such a fun movie, and it's just a good movie, and I've probably seen it fucking 50 times, but yeah, 5. The audience almost agrees with me. They gave it 4.7.
Yeah, the Google average audience, who it's probably a bunch of people who of this movie
Well,
growing up.
I see what they see in it.
Well, I gave it a 4. Definitely I'd probably think a 4 is high, honestly.
Wrong, it's
Definitely
low.
a nostalgic movie. I thought the puppet work was incredible. The fact that everything looks so good on Arrow's 4K, like, remaster of it, and it still held up and looked really good, that was impressive. The shining star of this movie for me by far is the characters and the acting.
Yeah.
Especially the chemistry between Kevin Bacon and Earl Bassett. But outside of those two, I thought all the characters were very realistic, very well written characters. Like, none of them are ridiculous. I mean, I suppose you could say Bert, his character is a little overwritten, but there is people out there like that.
Yeah.
Like, he's
Yeah, there
completely
is.
not out of the. There's people worse than that out there.
Well,
There's people who fuck pipe bombs with one in their ass. Let's just put it like that.
I mean, we've met, some of those older military guys that don't ever seem to get out of the military. Like, they're out, but their mind is still like
The
when
super boots.
like when they roll up on the cat and he's like armored transport, and it's
Yeah.
like, not really, but I get it. I get it.
Introduces himself as hi, I'm a vet. My name's Earl.
So yeah, there are people worse than him out there.
Yeah, I thought the character or the monster design was really cool. So glad they didn't go with the huge circumcised dick. I thought what they came up with was much less scary than an uncircumcised dick, but it looked great. For me, this is Jaws in the dirt, man.
Yeah, for sure.
This in Jaws is one of those movies where I've debated back and forth whether it's a horror movie or just like an action thriller. And then I feel the same way about this. It has its horror elements to it, has a couple scenes that are horror, but most of it's just action thriller. But definitely a classic monster movie that I would say is a must watch. Definitely a lot of nostalgia with it.
Well, we want to hear what you guys think. Do you think it's a 4 or a 5 movie? I'm really curious. Once again, we thank you guys for listening. Please give us a follow and like if you enjoy the show. Check out the website, check out the socials, check out the store, get some t-shirts. Tell a friend, a family member, or your local prepper/gun nut about the show. And we hope to see you next time.